Hi, I'm Eli Prinsen from hybridvocaltechnique.com. Today's video is on keeping your voice. All right. It's one thing to train to get the voice of your dreams, but then how do you take care of it? How do you keep your voice? Okay. Now, I've seen a video series on YouTube recently. It's a very interesting video series by another vocal coach, and it's singers then and now. And there's great variances in the quality of these singers' voices from when they were in their 20s or teens even, and now in their 50s and 60s, or whatever the case may be. Obviously, there's going to be some changes. Okay, now sometimes you'll be surprised at how well somebody's voice holds up well into their 50s and 60s, and sometimes even into their 70s. Okay, the best example from, in my opinion, the best singer that ever lived, Luciano Pavarotti. If you watch what I believe is his final performance of him singing Nessun Dorma, I want to say it's in 2006 or 2007, and it's to initiate the Olympics. And this was, I think, the first time he ever pitched it down. So it was a little bit lower, but he still killed it. It was incredible. And the man was dying of pancreatic cancer at the time. Okay. Another example, totally different genre. I remember seeing Ronnie James Dio back in 2007 on the Heaven and Hell tour when it was Black Sabbath, the Dio years, and it was a great concert. Queensryche and Alice Cooper opening up. It was just an amazing show, some great vocals. But Ronnie James Dio stole the show. As much as I love Jeff Tate, Dio just was incredible. And he was in his 60s. And little did we know the man was dying of cancer. Okay. And was still bringing it. The entire show, just never letting up. Okay. So there's singers out there that have completely lost their voices. There are singers out there that they can never perform live what you heard on the actual recording. Okay, so there's a lot of variances of how singers perform, and nowadays when you're actually allowed to have a concert, all you see is everybody out there with this watching you. So you're being recorded all the time, and then chances are you have an off night, or you being a human being, you don't get a break when you have a cold or something's going on. It instantly meets the internet, and it's, oh my God, Mariah Carey didn't sustain this whistle note, she's terrible. So it's going to happen no matter how good you are, no matter who you are. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of very cruel, twisted, unforgiving people on the internet with nothing better to do. Okay. But I like to give credit where credit's due. There is a singer who is extremely underrated from the 80s, a metal singer, and his name was Steve Grimmet from the band Grim Reaper. Okay. And this guy absolutely ripped. I mean, they sang a song back in the late 80s when they were trying to censor music, when you had the parental stamp, when all of that started. This was a song against the PMRC, and it was called Rock You to Hell, okay, which sounds rough, but it was basically just, kind of fighting back against the censorship, and that was the way they decided to do it from the metal community. Okay. But anyway, this guy, I saw him live in 87, and he just absolutely ripped the entire show, hit every note you heard on the record, sang it exactly the way it went. Very underrated. They were considered to be kind of like a Motorhead, kind of like a trashy metal band, just because they looked rough, and that's back when MTV kind of, showed up, and now you didn't just have to have talent, but you had to have the whole package too, And these guys were rough looking, but they were fantastic. And so Stephen Grimmet is probably, I'd say he's probably about 62 years old now. Well, a few years back, he had an infection in his leg and had to have part of it amputated. So the guy has like an artificial leg and is having to walk around with a cane and uses a head-worn microphone, because he's got to, he's got to have the cane to help himself out and to get around the stage. And he was always a little bit of a kind of a big guy. But the guy's voice lasted all the way up until that happened to him. I saw them again in 2016, and he was older than I am now. He was probably 55, 56 years old and was still hitting all the notes and ripping people's faces off live. Okay. Now, granted, after having what happened to his leg, the infection that had caused him to have that amputation, after that happened, you have to understand all the mechanics that go into extreme singing. What I mean by extreme singing is when you sing well above your natural range, okay, in classical terms. So this guy, hit super high notes, would sing in his full voice. He has a high, raspy tenor voice. So he's not even using head voice or anything. The guy's belting E5s like all over the place, with distortion. And he still pretty much can sing the songs. He has a little bit of trouble getting around. So his breathing is affected. To do a little touch of the then and now. At least there's a reason. It's not that he, totally abandoned his technique. That does happen in some cases. There's a lot of reasons for those then and now reasons that, why singers sound different. But in this guy's case, it's a shame, obviously, what happened to his leg. But when he walks around, he's not, it's tough for the guy to set up his support. So his breathing and his airflow and his air management is affected. So where he's still producing the range, he's having to kind of struggle for his breath. And that only started after the leg thing. All right. So I just wanted to bring him up because I've been seeing some singers, kind of not really getting a fair shake in some of these then and now videos I've been seeing. And it's not always the case. Okay, so this guy ripped all the way up until, he's still putting on a good show, and he's walking around with a cane and an artificial leg, and he's still hitting E5s in full voice. Okay, so it's not like it's impossible. This guy's great. That being said, I've seen some singers that are not getting a fair shake with some of these videos, and people saying they need to just hang it up and retire. And I see what they're doing, and it's completely fixable. It just, it's coming off of your technique. It's completely changing the way that you sing. Okay. If you completely change your technique, you cannot expect to have the same result. Okay. So back to the original topic, after I gave Steve Grimmet props on a then and now analysis without you ever possibly ever hearing the guy. I'll put links in the description so you can check out what I'm talking about. But the guy's amazing and highly underrated. And he was one of my favorites, and I practiced to him every day when I was a kid. Okay, so taking care of your voice. It is not only what you do in the training room. This being the training room, this is my controlled environment for me to vocalize, to do my vocal exercises. When I was a kid and I lived at home, when I first started taking lessons, I was probably 17 years old, almost 18. And this was before the internet. And I used to have to drive like almost an hour one way, take my lesson, and then drive almost an hour home. And I did that every weekend for over 5 years, okay, with my first teacher. And when I got home, I had a cassette tape of my lesson that I practiced with. Well, when I was at home, I was kind of nervous. My father worked second shift. I didn't want to wake him up, by singing. I was embarrassed because I hadn't really learned that much yet. I was terrible. So I would never sing with enough projection or support or power. My practice was lacking. So I found that the best place to practice was driving, because I was carefree, right? I was completely carefree, and I got a lot of my breakthroughs and a lot of good practice there because my mindset was different. I was able to project and, hit the notes the way they needed to be hit and improve. Okay. But in that environment, I was doing a lot of things that were harmful for the voice when I was young. Okay. Singing with too much air and jaw jutting because I was trying to be quiet. So I was trying to hit notes with air, and doing stuff like that, instead of giving it something to hit the note. I was afraid somebody was going to hear. I was going to bother somebody. So I'm sending tons of air to the vocal cords, drying them out. They swell faster. You lose your voice faster. It's no good. You develop a bad habit of jaw jutting. And I totally see this when I'm teaching people, and if they live like in an apartment or if they live somewhere where they're afraid of bothering others, I can totally spot this, and I'll tell them, hey, find an environment wherever it is. If you got to go to a park or go sit in a car parked down a street or whatever, you got to find that an environment to practice in where you can practice properly and get good practice and not create unhealthy habits. Okay. So that's one thing that I see that messes people up. Your practice environment. Okay. So find a good place to practice where you can do so properly. You have to get plenty of sleep. You got to get a lot of sleep, between 8 and 10 hours. All right. Even if you wake up sore, your vocal cords are going to thank you. Okay. Because you heal in your sleep. You heal in your sleep. All right. You want to stay hydrated, plenty of water. Your practice is crucial. Practicing is crucial so that you can maintain good muscle memory. Think about it this way. And this goes for those then and now guys, as well as everybody else. Once you get good, remember what it took to make you that good. Okay? And really think about that. If I started out doing breathing and diaphragmatic coordinating and development exercises and tongue exercises and vocal training exercises every day. Okay. My teacher would say, you could take one day off if you'd like, no less than 4 times a week, optimal 6 times a week. And I won't, mess with you if you do 7 times a week. I'm like, okay. But I did breathing exercises, tongue exercises, all these exercises every day. All right. And then along with singing with the band and band practice 3 to 4 times a week, and then shows. Now, my students and other singers of other teachers and everything, think about it this way. And I've had this question before. Is it okay if I stop doing my exercises now that I'm coordinated? And I'll say, well, have you ever joined a gym and got ripped and then just said, all right, I'm good. And then you leave. And if you think you're going to stay ripped, you're crazy. It's going to go away. It's going to go away. Those muscles are going to atrophy. They're going to, you're going to lose it. You have to maintain. So that's what I mean by don't forget what it took to make you that good. Keep doing it and stay that good. Okay? So dedicated, consistent training and practice. All right? Now, back to what I was talking about with the controlled environment. All right, now I'm lucky that I have my own voice studio. This is where I teach from. And so now I'm not worried about getting loud and singing correctly or whatever it is. I don't worry about that little voice in my head that's scared of waking somebody up anymore. And teaching in here, I teach from the morning till night, and I usually, if you've seen me most of the time, or if you've studied with me, I've always got these headphones on because I like to keep my voice cranked up in my ears to where I don't oversing, right? So I'm not giving it too much, or I'm not pushing harder than I need to do a demonstration. I'll have this microphone that's right here in my ears loud to where I'm just staying right on a kind of a speech level, even if I'm belting. And that's what I mean by a controlled environment. Now, when we translate our technique to actual singing, all right, actual singing meaning the stage, all right, not just the rehearsal room, but the stage. The rehearsal room can sometimes be worse than the stage. And what I mean by that is the sound levels, all right? What are you using to monitor your voice? Can you hear yourself at all? Do you have the constant struggle with the guitar player turning everything up as high as he can, hitting the boost pedal and just having just no sympathy for you at all? Or a drummer that breaks cymbals every other week? I have had that. Okay, most singers know what I'm talking about. All right. Do you have floor monitors? Do you have in-ear monitors? Do you have some way of hearing yourself? I remember, being in a band back in the 80s, back in the late 80s, and they were so loud, had a very hard-hitting drummer and two guitar players that were constantly battling each other for volume supremacy. So I finally invested in a really good wireless microphone, and they were inside of a mechanic shop that we used to rent after hours to rehearse in. And I would be like 30 feet away from the outside, and I would be singing, and that one, I wouldn't get feedback from having to turn, up so loud, but I was out there where I could actually hear myself and not kill my voice by being in that same room with them, just screaming my lungs out, not because I needed to hit the notes, but because I couldn't hear myself. It's what I call, what older people like me would understand if I say the Walkman effect. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. Back in the day before we had, or if you have, think about it this way, this still equates. The Walkman used to be this little thing where you would put a cassette tape in there and you put your headphones on and you listen. Now we have, ear pods and, phones and things like that. But the principle's still the same. What if you stuck those things in your ear, like a new song came out, or, hey man, did you hear the new song by Iron Maiden or whoever? And so they put on the headphones and the volume is up really loud and they're like, yeah, man, this is awesome. Man, yeah, this is killer. And they're breathing all loud and they're shouting and screaming and you're looking around, and it's because they can't hear themselves. They're trying to talk over top of the loud music in their ears. Okay. So think about how bad this is in the rehearsal room. Okay. You guys that are not on a huge professional level, probably suffer more than the guys that are actually performing on stage. If the music is so loud in a small room that you are screaming at the top of your lungs to try to hear yourself, you've completely come off of your technique of what I describe as good technique in the training room. So instead of you just going, just as free as a bird, you're screaming your lungs out and straining, and you're like, man, what is going on? I can't even get through my set. And you're tired, and your throat hurts, and you can barely speak when you leave the band practice. You have to have those heart-to-hearts with the band about that. And sometimes you got to get creative when people won't listen, and sometimes it's time to walk away. Move on. So there's a lot of factors that go into how people lose their voices. People lose their voices from what they do on stage and what they do off stage. Okay. Are they staying hydrated? Super important. Are you having trouble sleeping? Do you have insomnia? Okay. Get enough sleep so that your voice can heal. Okay. Do you warm your voice up before you practice your set? Do you cool your voice down after the set? Do you? Do you do it? Does your workout program or the vocal training that you do, does it warm your voice up and cool your voice down? Warm it up at the beginning of the training, cool it down at the end? Mine does. HVT does. Okay. As you get older, okay, I'm sure you've heard this before. This is pretty common knowledge, but as you get older, like an older guy like me, I'm in my 50s, our cartilage, we lose our bodies start to make less collagen. All right. So go to I have a thing like this of collagen. I put a scoop of it in my coffee every day. And so that helps me. Okay. I take supplements like zinc, a little bit of zinc to repair tissue, things that are not over the top, but just like, it's not like hard drugs or nothing. It's just vitamin supplements. Certain things can actually help you. I'm not a doctor and don't claim to be one, but I'm just saying, look into it and see what's right for you. But there's different little things like that can help you. Talking in loud environments is a no-no. When you're on stage, when you take a break and you go out into the audience and usually people want to mingle with you and talk with you, hang out with you. Are you out there talking as loud as you can when you have another 45-minute set to sing? Because chances are you're out there you can't hear, because now when the band stopped, most places will put the radio on or play something else, a playlist or something. And so it's loud in there. Plus it's loud because of the voices and the clanging and the pool and everything else. And so you're talking to people and you don't realize you're doing the Walkman effect. You're screaming just to hear your own voice as you speak. So you've completely come off of your vocal technique and back into forced, like over singing, forced speech. And that ruins your voice worse than anything. Okay? And believe it or not, so does whispering. I'm whispering. That's terrible for your voice. Terrible. Okay? That whispering dries your vocal folds out. Okay? There are a lot of things. Okay? Hard drugs, obviously. No brainer there. Shouting, screaming, bad technique, having no technique, just yelling and hoping for the best. Worst thing you could do. You will have no career. It'll be over unless that is your sound, and the worse it gets, the better people like it, I guess. Then you're in, but staying as close as you can to the technique that you have in your controlled environment, when you take that to the stage and to the rehearsal room, is gonna give you a longer career. Okay. Having specialized exercises or specific exercises to keep your voice healthy. All right. Placement is always going to be the most important thing in your vocal life for longevity. Other people will argue with me about, Eli, breathing is number one. That's the most important thing. Well, yes, it's the management of your air. But placement is the resonation or the resonating of your voice up in the mask, up in the top of your head, up behind your head, and not feeling excessive pressure and things happening in here, even though the voice is created here. You want to feel it up top. So maintaining that sensation, no matter how well you can or cannot hear, will save your voice. Okay? Think about the Beatles back in the 60s, all right, and in these stadiums with primitive equipment, and yet their harmonies are spot on. I remember reading that in a book, and it fascinated me, and I was like, that's so true. And I believe that the author, I believe is a vocal coach, said that, they got to know their internal sensations and the way I interpreted that was the resonance or the vibration, feeling it in the mask, feeling it in the head, and not down here and shouting from here just in an effort to try to hear themselves. So if you break it all down, you train in the best environment that you can possibly find to where you're doing things as correctly as possible and not worried about it. Okay, so you feel carefree, comfortable, and you're not nervous. Okay. 2, loud environments. No matter how loud it is, a trick that I was taught was to take one earplug and stick it in your ear to where you can hear your head tone, and then speak the way you sing. So a good coach will teach you to sing with resonance, to where your voice is up in your mask. Talk like that. Put that in your speech. Hey, what's going on? Make it resonate up here so you can feel the same vibration as you speak, or as you, the way that you sing, do that when you speak. So even if you're in the loud environments, you have an earplug so you can actually hear yourself without shouting to hear yourself, and still create that buzz and resonance. Make sure you feel it, think it and feel it, and try your best not to speak over your natural volume. If people can't hear you, tough. Okay. I've gone as far as to just, kind of escape and go backstage and let other people talk to people and stuff. And then, or if I could hear in the hallways or something, or in different situations, or if it was at the end of a show or before or whatever, find the environments where you can interact with your fan base, where you can control the volume of your voice, and then you'll give a better performance for them on stage. Okay. So I know this was all over the place. Gave props to a metal singer, a little bit of then and now kind of stuff, and a little bit of vocal health. So I hope you enjoyed this long vocal seminar. So I'm Eli Prinsen. I'm the founder of Hybrid Vocal Technique. I am a vocal coach. I have been a professional vocalist for decades. I've sang for bands like The Sacrificed, Sacred Warrior, Aldaria, Signum Regis, Sealed Fate, Scepter, etc., etc. I've done a lot of projects with people, specializing in rock and power metal and things like that. But little do people know I love all music. I sing just about every style there is for fun for myself, because I just love singing. Hybrid Vocal Technique is the study, training, and development of the human voice. It is not just a specifically tailored vocal training system for rock or metal. It is for the use of the human voice to reach its maximum potential, so that you can have the absolute maximum range that your body can produce, vocal range, and develop your voice to where you choose creatively as an artist what you choose to sing, and enjoy yourself. Okay. So if you need help, I'd love to coach you. If you prefer to train at home, I have vocal training programs. I also have a VIP membership with a community of singers and HVT vocalists and trainees. And it's a lot of fun in there too. So check all the links out in the description, the stuff of Steve Grimmet. You'll be blown away at this guy's voice, and also the HVT info. Have a wonderful night or a wonderful day whenever you're hearing this, watching this, listening to this, and take care.